So let me explain to you in a very vivid illustration the corruption of the credit card business. Because I'm just going to tell you the way I see it. It is a business, yes, but it's a corrupt business. Because the credit card industry is designed to enslave people financially and to drain them. And it destroys lives. And it's sad that in our country we don't have laws that regulate this more closely. But let me give you a classic example. The average person in this country, the United States of America, wherever in the world you're listening from, it may vary, but the average American carries $6,194 in credit card debt. That's the national average. And as I give you this example, you might want to write this down. The average person in America carries $6,194 in credit card debt, according to the Experian Consumer Credit Review. According to the most recent data that I was able to get a hold of for this study, the average credit card interest rate for purchases is now 20.66%. That's average. Not all of you have credit cards that high. Many of you have them higher. There are credit cards with 25, 30+% interest rate for people that have poor credit scores. But the national average is $6,194 of credit card debt at the average of 20.66%. Now, let's take a look at exactly what the credit card industry does to you if you're carrying that average. If you take the average credit card debt of $6,194 at 20.66% interest, and you make the minimum payment of $125 a month, it will take you over 30 years of your life to pay that credit card off. And that's without any additional purchases. You heard me right. Write it down, because I want you to have a cold slap in the face in dealing with the corruption of credit cards, because they're not your friends, they're your financial enemy. They're a disease to the resources that God wants to entrust to you. And if you are using credit cards, you are making a serious mistake unless you are disciplined to pay them off every month. Now, I want to be transparent with you. In my wallet, in my back pocket, as I speak, I have 2 credit cards. I have one American Express for the ministry, and I have one American Express for my personal use. But they have to be paid off every month. But most people are not disciplined to do that. Now, for example, the American Express for the ministry has great benefit because it documents all spending. We willingly employ an independent accountant every year to audit Lost Lamb Association. The government doesn't require that. The state of Maine doesn't require that. But my hero in the faith, Dr. Billy Graham, always felt like that was a step of integrity, that ministries who are supported by gifts and offerings and donations could take to prove integrity and keep your eyes upon good reports and be able to watch spending, expenses, and trends, etc. And so the use of an American Express card as I travel and on the road documents all spending and then provides a report for our audit at the end of the year. But we pay it off each and every month. Lost Lamb Association carries no long-term or short-term debt. To the grace of God and to the open transparency to people who stand by this ministry, I want them to know that we endeavor to practice what we preach. And I do the same with my own personal card. I don't carry a balance on it. If I use it, I pay it off by its due date or before so as not to incur extra interest. But let me repeat what I just said to you. The average American does not do that. The average American, and wherever you're at, you can find the data, but the average American carries $6,194 of credit card debt at an average interest rate of 20.66%. If you make the minimum payment of $125 a month, it will take you over 30 years of your hardworking life to pay that balance off. Not to mention, you will pay over $30,000 just in interest on that $6,194, and that is if you never make another purchase. So that, my friend, is the ugly, corrupt underbelly of the credit card industry. And I want you to understand that using credit cards for purchases and carrying debt is the single most irresponsible behavior in your life if you are a follower of Christ. And I'm going to say it again. I know it might seem hard, and I'm going to get to the encouragement and the hope and how to get rid of that debt. But I want to put enough salt in this wound that you feel the pain to understand, because people rarely make changes until they feel the pain or recognize the error of their ways. And so if you are a Bible-believing Christian and you believe that God's word is true and that the counsel that he gave to you in the Bible is not optional, but something that should direct your life like the North Point on a compass in every decision you make, then the use of credit cards for purchases that are not immediately paid off is not only disobedience to the teaching of the Bible, it is the single most irresponsible decision you are making for your financial future. And I'm here today to help you to draw a line in the sand and to correct that. Furthermore, if you're a Christian and you're carrying balances on your credit card, there's actually spiritual implications to that, because the Bible tells me that God watches how you manage money to determine what gifts he gives to you spiritually. Some of you have never heard that taught, so let me say it again slowly and carefully. God watches how you manage money to determine what he can entrust to you with heavenly gifts. I know some of you need for me to go in the Bible. We'll just go right there into Luke 16, right into our text that we were reading. There are several passages that I could teach on this, but for sake of time, let me give you one clear-cut verse. Luke chapter 16 and verse 11. The Bible said, if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? So God watches how you manage money to determine where your gifts in the spiritual kingdom will be. Many of you will never be promoted, will never be put forward, will never be used by God in a significant way until you learn to obey the counsel of God on managing your money. Because God said, if I can't even trust you to manage temporary things, how can I entrust you to manage eternal things? All right, that's enough pain. Let's get to some help. If you're taking notes, number 2, how to pay off credit card debt quickly. Write that down. Number 2, how to pay off credit card debt quickly. The first thing that I want to do, and I rarely do this, and by the way, in a moment when I recommend a book, I'm not connected with the author. Lost Lamb has no deal in promoting this book. There's no kickback. There's no profit. I do this simply because I genuinely believe in the author's wisdom. He's a Christian man. All that he does in the area of debt counseling is built upon biblical principles. When I was younger, there was a man by the name of Larry Burkett, and he was probably one of the first notable Christian companies that dealt with debt management and debt elimination, and one of his proteges was a man by the name of Dave Ramsey. Now, sadly, Larry Burkett has gone home to be with the Lord. He was a wonderful, godly Christian man, lived in Georgia. Several years ago, he passed away. But one of the individuals that was mentored by him, who has become actually more famous both in media and in authorship and publication, is a man by the name of Dave Ramsey. So I want you to write down the title of the book, and they're actually going to put the book up on the screen here for about 10 seconds. The title of the book is The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, a proven plan for financial fitness. I really want to encourage you, if you are serious about getting your financial life in order. Now listen carefully. We are living in the last days, and getting your financial house in order is more critical now than at any point probably in human history. Because the Bible prophesied, and I teach on Bible prophecy to you all the time. We have over 100,000 students at least once a month that study the Bible and study Bible prophecy with us on our YouTube channel and podcast channel and Facebook channel, etc. And many of you know my positions on Bible prophecy. We are living in the last days. And because the Bible prophesied that perilous times would come, it is critical that you get your financial life in order as quickly as possible. Now, I think you can get Dave Ramsey's book online for about $12. Some of you go out with a friend and you spend more at a coffee shop. Get that book and put it in your library, and better yet, it comes with a workbook, and I think the book and the workbook are about $23. I highly recommend. Again, I have no connection, no kickbacks. I have them in my library. I've learned from them. Probably a lot of what I've taught through the years in finances would connect with the Bible First, Larry Burkett, Dave Ramsey. These are individuals who have track records of integrity and are Christian men that give us great insight in Christian principles. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And I would highly, again, encourage you, get the book and the workbook. Because if you're committed to getting out of debt and want a workable, biblical, step-by-step plan that has helped thousands of people get out of debt, that book will take you into a much deeper teaching than what I'm able to give in one sitting. Also, it will provide a workbook with worksheets and step-by-step things that you can do. But with that in mind, let me close by giving you 7 steps to paying off credit card debt quickly. If you're taking notes, this is the theme of the teaching, 7 steps to paying off credit card debt quickly. Number 1, get on a budget. Number 1, if you're going to pay off credit card debt quickly, and these aren't optional, these are not pick your favorite 3. You need to do all 7 of what I'm about to teach you, and they're all biblical. Number 1, get on a budget. Money goals will never become money realities without a budget. Because if I were to ask the average person, exactly how much do you bring in each month and exactly what are your expenses, most people would not be able to give me a detailed answer. Your answer would be vague or general. Now, I realize that some of you work in sales, some of you work on commissions, some of you are business owners, and so there's fluctuations in that. But the average person who's employed would be able to sit down and say, here's exactly what I take in every month, here's exactly what my expenses are. But the number 1 mistake that people make that prevents them from being promoted by God in blessing and favor and in wealth management is they don't use a budget. The Bible says in Matthew's gospel, does not a man who builds a house first sit down and count the costs? That's a budget. And so if you're going to manage money well and get out of debt quickly and eliminate credit card debt quickly, step number 1, write a budget. A budget is simply an organized plan for your money. Start by listing all of your income and include in that any side hustles that you've got going. But you need to know exactly how much money do I have coming in every month. And then write out your expenses and begin with what I call home expenses. Rent, mortgage, utilities, electricity, food, transportation. Begin to break down all of your expenses in detail and write it down. And you can sit down. If you're married, you need to do this as a couple, because if you're going to eliminate credit card debt quickly, there has to be agreement. If a husband has a plan, but the wife doesn't submit to that, then you're going to have financial problems and credit card debt. If the wife wants to get out of credit card debt, but her husband is selfish and spending and frivolous, you're going to have problems. And it's not only going to be problems in your finances, it's going to be an abrasive place in your marriage. And God doesn't want you to have abrasive, difficult patches in your marriage. If you're committed to God and if you're committed to your marriage, then you need to both be on the same set of goals for financial management. Not to mention that what God does in your home, what God does in your marriage, He's watching how you manage your money before He opens the windows of heaven. So both husband and wife need to be in agreement on this. And that might be a difficult task. But step number one is together write down a budget. After you know all of your income, you need to know all of your expenses, and I mean all of them. Now, if you have any money left over, you need to make the decision, we're going to take every extra dollar and we're going to begin to apply it to our credit card debt. Now, I'm going to get into some specific strategies on that, so hold on. But that's step number one, get a budget. Number two, stop using credit cards. No one is serious about godly financial management until they stop using credit cards. And when I say stop, if you have a track record of not paying off balances. A responsible Christian, as I've mentioned to you, I'm doing my best to be responsible, but I only carry 2 credit cards, one for the ministry, one for my personal use. I rarely use the one for my personal use unless I'm trying to document spending. But I pay it off every month. I do not carry a balance on my personal card, and the ministry card is paid off every month. But the average person, if you're carrying large credit card debt, you probably are not disciplined enough yet to get there. So follow my advice. Number one, create a budget. Number two, cut up your credit cards. Stop using credit cards. Well, let me keep 1 or 2. No, get rid of all of your credit cards. If you stop using credit cards, you eliminate completely the risk of having credit card debt. Start using a debit card and cash. Bang, that's it. Cut up your credit cards, use a debit card and cash, and start using only your money. Because when you're using credit cards and not paying them off, you're using the money of organizations that are corrupt, and they are built upon keeping you enslaved in debt. As I've already shared with you, the minimum debt payment principle is to keep you enslaved for decades. And simple purchases become monumental purchases over the course of 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So eliminate credit cards. Number 3, set up a $1,000 emergency fund as quickly as possible. Now, for some of you, that'll be an easy task. For others of you, that's going to be a difficult task. But that's number 3. And the reason why you need to set up a $1,000 emergency fund is because life happens. Your teenager wrecks your car, you have a $500 deductible or a $1,000 deductible, where your kids get cavities and have to go to the dentist. And I mean, we could go down a myriad of life happen moments where things that are outside of your budget happen. You need to have some cash because you don't want to cycle back. I met somebody recently that started their business on credit cards. They borrowed $20,000 on credit cards to launch an unproven business that quickly tanked, and then both the husband and the wife lost their jobs to compound the problems, and now their life is a mess, and their marriage is struggling, and it's painful. Poor financial management will always bring pain and stress and anxiety and worse. Cut up your credit cards, get rid of them, use only a debit card and cash. Step number 3, save $1,000. Number 4, lower your bills. And again, some of these are going to be sacrificial and difficult. But if you're committed to getting out of debt quickly, number 4, lower your bills. Let me be more specific. Eliminate all unnecessary spending. You're going to need to make some difficult, short-term decisions if you want to enjoy long-term benefits. Let me say that again, write it down. You're going to have to make some difficult, sacrificial, short-term decisions. This isn't how you're going to live for the rest of your life. This is how you're going to live for a short season of your life to have a rich season of life. But if you'll make tough, sacrificial, difficult, short-term financial decisions, it will enable you to enjoy long-term benefits. And you need to be willing to eliminate all unnecessary monthly payments. You need to sell off some of your toys. Some of you have got loans out on cars and side-by-sides and four-wheelers and boats and snow machines and on and on and on. You need to sell them. Eliminate, again, short-term. This is how you're going to live for the rest of your life. These are difficult decisions you're going to make for a short term to make sure that you have the ability to pay cash for anything you want in the near future. And some of you need to do that. You need to sell off toys, especially if you have got them set up on credit cards or you're paying a monthly payment to a bank. You should always, listen, always pay cash for your toys. If you can't pay cash for your toys, then you can't afford your toys. There are certain things in life that we have to have. Toys are not necessary living expenses. And some of you need to get rid of your toys. Some of you have too many vehicles, too many trucks, and you need to make some tough decisions. Some of you have a vehicle that you can barely afford the payment on. You need to get rid of it. If you can do it without being upside down, you need to get rid of it. Buy yourself a clunker that'll get you to work for a short period of time. Make some difficult decisions in the short term so that you can enjoy long-term blessings. The more you cut out of your monthly expenses, write this down, solid gold, the more sacrificial elimination of monthly expenses that you're willing to make, the quicker you'll get out of debt. In other words, your ability to get rid of monthly expenses is the accelerator in how quickly you can eliminate credit card debt and begin to build savings and wealth. Number 5, make extra income. You may need to get an extra job. Ask for overtime hours if you have the ability to do that. Get a side job. Do a side hustle. Open up an account and drive Uber X amount of hours a week or Lyft. Or deliver groceries with companies like Shipt or Instacart. Sell unused items on eBay, etc. Be creative, but ask God to give you ideas for adding extra income, and then don't take that extra income and go back into the same poor behaviors. Add every single dollar of extra income you can make to paying off those credit cards. Paying off debt is never easy. It will require sacrifice, but ultimately, if you'll listen to the godly counsel that I'm giving to you from the Scriptures, it will change your life and your happiness and your joy and your family and your marriage. Number 6, now here's where I want you to really pay careful attention, because I'm going to share with you the single most effective strategy for paying off debt quickly. Number 6, use the debt snowball method. Some of you perhaps have never heard of that. Let me say it again. The debt, D-E-B-T, the debt snowball method. So what's that? Good thing you're listening, because I'm going to teach it to you. The debt snowball method is a plan to start paying off your credit cards. Listen carefully. Setting up the smallest balance and moving towards your largest balance. For example, let's say you have 3 credit card debts. One credit card, you have $500 of debt on it. The second credit card, you have $2,500 of debt on it. The third credit card, you have $7,000 of debt on it. The goal is to pay off the smallest one first. Now listen, the smartest thing to do would be to pay off the biggest one first, but let me tell you why I don't recommend that. because it takes so long to pay off the biggest one first that studies show that people get discouraged and lose their motivation and many times quit. But the snowball method is the most time-tested, effective method of eliminating credit card debt that people stick to, because you get to that first victory, you get to that first financial victory quickly. And there's an attitude. It changes mindset. It changes heart feelings. It changes motivation. When you begin to see a task, so instead of paying off a credit card that may take you 3 years to pay off, you pay one off that takes a matter of months to pay off. Or if you'll begin to do all of the things that I've already shared with you, you'll eliminate that smallest one very quickly. The debt snowball method is all about building motivation and momentum. And studies have shown that those two factors accelerate the good feelings of changing bad behaviors and making better financial decisions. So sit down, write down all of your credit card debts, and target the smallest balance first. And you're going to work from the smallest to the largest. The quick win is super inspiring for the average person. And it works because it changes people's behavior. So let me walk down through it before we close. And if you're taking notes, step 1, list your credit card debt from smallest to largest. Again, don't worry about interest rates in this methodology. Don't worry about the math. You want to concentrate upon changing behavior, not getting a math degree. So number 1, list all of your credit card debt from smallest to largest and continue to make the minimum payments on all of your other credit cards, but attack that first smallest balance with a holy vengeance. Number 2, use all your extra money that you've got from the earlier things that I taught you and attack that smallest credit card debt. And once that debt is gone, take what you were paying on it and apply it to the second credit card along with continuing minimum payments on your others. Once that credit card is gone, take what you were paying on the first two and apply it to the next smallest debt. And the more you pay off, the more your money is freed up and it snowballs. That's why it's called the debt snowball method. And it will give you hope because it literally does snowball. As you pay off the smallest, you take the amount you were paying on that, add it to the minimum payment on the next, and pay that off, and so on and so on. It begins a snowball effect of multiplying your money, multiplying your effectiveness in eliminating debt. And you just keep repeating those steps until all of your debt is gone. Now, when you pay off a credit card, very important, don't forget to close out the credit card account. Very important. Because if you don't, that affects your credit rating. So once a credit card is paid off, call the credit card company, make sure that account is closed out, and be sure you've cut that card up into itty-bitty pieces that no amount of super glue and effort will ever heal. And then you'll do it. And you'll do it much quicker. If you'll follow the methods that I've taught, you'll do it much quicker than you ever thought possible. Now, I'm going to ask you, if you're in credit card debt, you're going to need to listen and re-listen to much of this teaching until your notes provide for you a systematic plan. Better yet, if you order Dave Ramsey's book and workbook, all of what I've taught you will be in greater detail, and the workbook will give you actual plans that you can begin to put into fruition, and you will see credit card debt eliminated quickly. Number 7, and I close with this, be a giver. Now, if you're a Bible believer, and I am, now you need to understand something. My wife and I started out with nothing. I started out in evangelism in 1979. Our first year on the road in ministry, I made just over $3,300. My father had driven up to Bible college for my graduation and gave me a brand new car with a payment book without asking me. So my father put me into debt, and I don't complain about that. He simply said, if you're going to be an evangelist and you're going to travel, you have to have a car. I didn't have any car. I was walking to McDonald's and working in my senior year, saving money, walking back, getting up at 4 in the morning, doing kitchen duty at the Bible college. My dad showed up at graduation with a brand new car and put my wife and I in debt. And we were homeless for the first 4 years. So a lot of what I'm teaching you, I have had to learn. I've had to walk through this. I empathize with wherever you're at. I'm not here to judge you. I care about you. I want to help you.
Thầy nhắc lại nha, các bạn thế tê vào đây thì chúng ta bấm máy. Lưu ý trước khi bấm máy các bạn phải đổi ra radian cho thầy nha. Rồi, câu số 5. Một chất điểm dao động điều hòa có phương trình ly độ như màn hình của các bạn quan sát. Ly độ của vật khi pha dao động, tức là pha là nguyên cái góc này nè. Đúng chưa? Nguyên cái góc này các bạn thế bằng trừ pi trên 3 vào. Và các bạn bấm máy 6 nhân cos của trừ pi trên 3 thì nó sẽ ra là 2. Được chưa? 1/2 nhân 3, cos của trừ pi trên 3 là 1/2, 1/2 nhân cho 3 thì nhân cho 6 thì nó ra là 3. Vậy câu số 5 đáp án đúng của chúng ta là đáp án A. Rồi, chúng ta tiếp tục qua câu số 6. Một chất điểm M chuyển động đều trên một đường tròn có bán kính R, vận tốc là V. Hình chiếu của điểm M trên đường kính là một dao động điều hòa có. Đúng không? Bây giờ thì cái bài này thầy đã nói ở ngay cái phần đầu rồi. Các bạn chú ý điều này cho thầy nha. Đây, chất điểm M chuyển động tròn đều nè. Đúng không ạ? Chuyển động tròn đều theo chiều dương đi chẳng hạn. Đây là vị góc tọa độ O hay là tâm của chuyển động tròn đều đó. Thì khi nó chuyển động tròn đều như thế này, được chưa? Hình chiếu của nó là cái điểm B này đây. Đúng không ạ? Đây là điểm B. Hình chiếu của nó sẽ dao động điều hòa xung quanh cái vị trí cân bằng O. Ví dụ như nó đi nửa đường tròn trên thì nó sẽ dao động từ A qua trừ A. Rồi tiếp tục nó quay nửa đường tròn dưới thì nó sẽ dao động từ trừ A qua A. Tức là hình chiếu B này nó sẽ dao động điều hòa xung quanh cái trục O này. Và người ta hỏi là một dao động điều hòa có bán kính R là bao nhiêu? Đúng không? Có biên độ. Như vậy biên độ của ông ta chính là đoạn này.